So here, let's take a quick look at these questions together. So for the very first one, here it says, many tourists hotspots have become what? Overcrowded and busy, and travelers no longer find them attractive. And as you can see here, the phrases we have here, one is overcrowded and also busy. So in this case, we will choose so that. So we put an adjective behind so, right? And then we put and now behind such. So in this case, we'll say become so overcrowded and busy that travelers no longer find them attractive, right? So that might be the very first one. And the second one is beaches and streets have become normal. So as you can see here in the sentence, the subject is beaches and streets, and the verb is have become. So inside these two phrases is the clause, right? So originally the phrase or the clause will be something like beaches and streets which are covered in garbage, all right? And because as we know, we can omit the word which are, and we just keep the passive voice verb. So that's why we will have beaches and streets covered in garbage have become normal. So beaches and streets covered in garbage have become normal. So that might be the second one, all right? And also, there's one more thing here for question number 15. So for question number 15 here, it says, one obvious factor is what population growth. So as you can see here, we are talking about nowadays, we have a lot of people in the world. So that's why we choose dramatic population growth. So dramatic here means like huge or large. So kind of large population growth or dramatic population growth. And we are not going to choose domestic because here we are talking about the world's population, not about the population inside a country. So as we know, the word domestic is used to talk about the things inside a country, or just like domestic flights, which means the flights right inside a country. And we are also talking about like the domestic violence, for example, which means the violence at home, right? Then we'll move on to number 18 we have here. So for this question, as you can see here, it says, this had led to more travelers who want to get away from the concrete jungles in which they live. So the very first one, so why do they want to leave? That's because the first one, like the pressure of city life, they enjoy the thought of peaceful, relaxing vacations. So here we use fed up with because we say we are fed up with something, be fed up something, but we say we suffer from something. So in this case, if you want to choose suffer from, there should be suffering from. So you can say suffering from the pressure of city life instead of the choices we have here. Here we just have suffered from. If you really want to choose this one, you should say like suffering from. Okay, suffering from. So suffering from the pressure of city life, or we said be fed up with something. So in this case, we can just simply say they are fed up with the pressure. So that's why you make it into like fed up with the pressure of city life. And so that's the very first one, why people prefer to go traveling abroad. And the second one, there will be another one like the world is safer than before. So these are the two reasons why people would like to get away from the concrete jungles. They would like to travel outside or travel abroad. That's because the first reason is about the pressure of the city. And the second reason is that because nowadays the world is safer than before. So the second one here, the world is safer than before, should be an extra reason why people would like to go traveling. So that's why in this case we choose like furthermore, okay, one more or one extra reason for them to go traveling. All right. And also, yeah, and also for number 16 is about like 2 times as large as. So as you can see here, you should say the world's population is 2 times as large as it was 50 years ago. Or you can say 2 times larger than it was 50 years ago. So make sure you know the sequence of the word here. We said times as large as what? Or times more than what? Okay, 2 times larger than, or 2 times as large as what? And one more thing we have here, a lot of people also make the mistake here, which is about as expected. So why we can just make it so short like the one here as expected? That's because originally it is as it was expected. So you can take a look here, as it was expected, right? So as it was expected, all right? So that we can omit the subject and also the verb here. So there will be as expected, okay, as expected. So if you really want to choose B, you should say as it was expected, as it was expected. Okay, we need was because something was expected. So we use a passive voice here. Then for this part, I think a lot of people have questions or probably have some problems with this one. And let's take a look at the very first one. For number question 21, here it says, unfortunately, it is also home to excessive development by greedy business people. So as you can see, right here we have development, the noun here. So excessive and number 21 here should be another adjective as well. So that's why we say like excessive, thoughtless development. A lot of people choose B and F, but as we know, B and F, these two words are verbs, not adjectives. So that's why in this case, in this blank, probably you can only choose the word thoughtless, all right, thoughtless development. And then for number 22, visitors though continue to what here. So here, continue to do something. So in this case, here we need a verb. So that's why here we will choose flock. Okay, so flock, which means get together. So a lot of visitors continue to gather here or continue to get together here. So that's why we will choose flock. All right. And then it says, every year, the already crowded streets of the island overflow with a steady stream of short and long-term guests. So in this blank, we can only choose overflow. So overflow just like fill with. So overflow with something or fill with something. So we say it's like the island over the streets of the island overflow with steady stream of short and long-term guests. So they'll be better. And we'll move on to number 29, right? So also a lot of people probably quite don't get it here. So it says, she also recommends that visitors expand their travel map. So you can pay attention to the words here. She also recommends that someone should do something. So recommend, just like the word recommend, advise, demand, or insist. And then someone should do something. But mostly we'll just omit the word should. So that's why here we'll use root verbs here. So in this case, we choose expand. So that visitors should expand their travel map. People should not, she states, concentrate just a few over-visited destinations. So we should not just focus on some destinations only. So that's why in this case, we'll say we should expand our travel map. In other words, we should go to different places around the world instead of just going to certain kind of places around the world. So that's why he says people should not, she states. So the sentence is quite complicated here, but obviously the subject of the sentence will be people. So people should not what? And then here for number 30 should be a verb. And she states here just like a clause to get extra information. So people should not concentrate just a few over-visited destinations. So in this case, you can just ignore this part, right? And then you just say people should not concentrate on just a few over-visited destination, or just kind of focus on just a few over-visited destination. All right, so probably these might be the things you probably will have problem with. And then for this part, for the discourse, so again, in this one, in the second paragraph, start to talk about the development of the national park. So as we can see here, just like the timeline of the place. So we will try to describe the place in the time order. So that's why for this one, we had 1984, and then 1980s, and then 1990s, and 2007, and then we had 2014, all right? So that's why for number 31 here, we'll choose in 2014, as the statistics show, there were 8.16 million visitors swarming its streets and beaches, okay? In this case. And then also at about 8.16 million visitors, he also mentioned another one, which is about 25 million residents in this case. All right, so that's why it's kind of related. It's about the time and also the number of the visitors. And they try to use the number of the visitors to compare with the number of residents in the place. And then in the following, it starts to talk about some certain kind of problems they have in the place. So for number 32, so basically the first problem is about the accommodation choices, right? So we had the very first problem, accommodation choices, and also we have overpriced food, for example. And then we should have one more thing. And then here we have the word waste. So probably when you see the word waste, there'll be something about the garbage or something like pollution, right? So that's why in this case we choose D, because also another problem will be the place or the beaches are choked with vendors and tourists and their garbage. So that's why in the next sentence it starts to talk about the waste. So garbage and the waste. And then finally, for the last sentence we have here, so it says, from its peak in 2014, tourism in Kenting was down about 50% by 2018. So it talks about the drop, all right, the falling population of the tourists in the national park. So that's why for number 34, we'll choose like recent data suggests that more and more people seem to be in agreement. So which means what? More travelers are willing to be in agreement. In other words, they are trying to be more friendly to the environment. So that's why they will take care of the place, or they try to take their behavioral traveling into consideration. So that's why from the peak of 2014, then it drops down to about like 50%, about 50% by 2018, with just like 4 million visitors. So that's why we choose A. right here, okay, which is about most travelers seem to be in agreement, and then also about data. So that's why it talks about the numbers like down about 50%, and then 4 million visitors, for example. All right. And in terms of the reading comprehension, I think most of you did a good job on this one. Yeah, just almost like everyone got the correct answers for these two. So there will be about this one. So there will be all about this. So if you still have any question, you can leave a comment on the board or classwork, and then I will try to answer the questions there. So there will be all about this one.